just so you know. What did you say, Scott?
Okay, I feel like this talk's kind of gonna have engendered a lot of confusion because there's a lot of things I noticed, and forgive me, I spoke out earlier.
That's all right.
There's a lot of things that you did in this talk, in this presentation. You kind of gish-galloped over a bunch of things, and there's a lot of logical fallacies. I don't want to address all of them. I can't. I know you've got a limited amount of time. The biggest problem I noticed is you mentioned a few times, and kind of disparagingly, this idea of an atheistic worldview, and then you attack that. That's a great straw man because atheism is not a worldview. And I know that you've been made aware of this because you've had debates with other people to this effect. So I would...
okay, what do you mean by worldview?
Well, that's what I would like to ask you. Atheism is just the rejection of the claim of theism, which tells you nothing about how that person thinks about social rules, who they want to vote for, whether they like cake more than they like pie. It's not a worldview. Atheism is simply saying God is not guilty of existing. It's not the same thing as saying God does not exist. Now, there are atheists who do that. They'd be called strong atheists, or what we call Gnostic atheists. But atheism is just a rejection of the claim of God existing.
Okay, let me ask you a question about this, Scott. Here's the proposition. God exists. Do you agree with that proposition? Do you disagree with that proposition? Or you don't know?
I don't know.
Okay, so you're an agnostic then.
Well, agnosticism addresses knowledge, right?
So you don't know.
Theism addresses a belief claim. So I would be agnostic atheist. I do not know that God does or does not exist, but I do not believe that he does.
Okay, well, you still believe that you don't know whether God exists, so it's still a belief.
It's a lack of belief.
No, you believe that it's true that you don't know that God exists.
And your point is?
Okay, well, my point is that atheists today are trying to say, I have a lack of belief in God. For me, that's just saying something about your psychological state. It doesn't say anything about the real world out there. It doesn't say whether or not God exists. You're simply saying, I lack a belief in God.
Sure.
Well, this water bottle lacks a belief in God. But
the water bottle doesn't have the capacity to believe.
Right, I know.
You addressed this with Cosmic Skeptic, like in 2017. When and
okay, but the audience doesn't know this, so just give me a chance to answer.
You guys should check that out. It's pretty good.
If we define atheism as a lack of belief in God or whatever,
sure,
then we're not really saying anything, because everything that doesn't have the capacity to believe anything could be called an atheist then.
And a water bottle could also be called a vegan if you say it's something that doesn't eat animal parts. As far as that label is being applied, it's ineffective in that case. I would say atheism is related only to those things that have the capacity to believe in the first place.
Okay, we can argue over definitions all day long. When I'm debating an atheist, whether it's Christopher Hitchens, Michael Shermer, Jeffrey Lauder, whoever it is,
sure.
When we set up a debate, I say, let's debate this. What better explains reality, theism or atheism? Or if you want to call atheism materialism, whatever you want to call it.
But the point is, theism is not trying to explain reality.
Yes, we are.
No, that's not what it is doing. And I'm telling you, as an atheist, that's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is, you are coming to me and you're saying, hey, God explains X, Y, and Z. And I'm saying, well, how do you know that? And why do you know that? And convince me of that.
Okay, let me finish my point, Scott. Okay?
Sure.
When two people come to debate on this issue, I'm going to say, when I look at reality around me, when I look at the creation of the universe, or the fact that the universe exists, the fine-tuning, the objective moral values, when I look at what appears to be design in life and where life came from, when I look at consciousness and free will and the laws of logic and our ability to reason, I think anybody coming onto a debate stage has to give causes for why those things exist.
No, they only have to show that your arguments aren't correct or fallacious.
No. When you frame the debate the way we frame it, what better explains reality? And reality includes all those things I just mentioned. Then I have the burden of proof to say, I think these things are best explained by theism. And the atheist has the burden of proof to say, okay, I see those things exist. Here's my explanation for why they exist.
Well, then I don't believe any atheist that I've ever seen debate with you has ever accepted a debate under that kind of framework. The framework is never that Scott, atheism is a better explanation. It's that your theism is not a sufficient explanation.
Well, you'll have to talk to them, Scott, because they agreed every time. Christopher Hitchens.
You guys should check out the videos on YouTube.
Yes, Michael Shermer.
Not,
okay, just Just so you know. What did you say, Scott? I was lying?
Yes. He said you were lying.
I'll be happy to, if you give me your email address, I will send you a video of all those debates, and you can watch.
I've seen plenty of them. I watched them while I was waiting to see this talk.
Okay, well, those were the titles of the debates. And the reason we do that, ladies and gentlemen, is because let me put it this way, it's easy to smell a rotten egg, it's hard to lay a better one. Okay? So if someone has a position over there that I think is wrong, I can throw eggs at it, and I can try and diffuse and say that's a bad argument, that's a bad argument. But I then still have the burden of proof to say, well, what is my explanation for the way things are the way they are? Let me give you one last illustration, because this is an important point that Scott brought up. If I'm a detective and atheist Michael Shermer is a detective, and we come on a dead body, and I say, okay, I'm looking at all the evidence here, I think candidate X did it. And Michael Shermer says, no, candidate X did it, or didn't do it. That's the wrong, he's not the murderer. And I say, okay, who is the murderer then? And he says, well, I just lack a belief that your guy's the murderer. Is he a good detective? No. Shooting down my suspect isn't enough. If he's a good detective, he has to give reasons as to why candidate Y is the murderer, not just to say that your guy is the wrong guy. That's all I'm saying, Scott.